Is autofocus on? I hope I'm in focus. Yeah, I'm in focus. I'm planning on going to Vermont for the next week or so, and I'm planning on doing a couple reviews while I'm in Vermont, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the subscribers that I have on this channel. It's not like I have a million subscribers, but it seems like you guys do come back and comment and like and all that stuff, and I really appreciate it. I just wanted to say I appreciate it. We can sometimes get in such a mad dash for more popularity or views or clicks or whatever and forget to thank the people that we do have on our channel or our page or whatever. So thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you guys in Vermont. Hello, thank you for joining me on another episode of Sam Has a Spending Problem. Today we have the GoPro Hero 8 Black 4K waterproof action camera. And I'm really excited because this is the first GoPro that I've ever owned that's current gen. It always feels really nice to have the current version of something. Wait, what? They came out with a new one? But they just released this one. Well, anyway, I had the new version of the GoPro until 15 minutes later when they released the newer version. I guess GoPro is taking a page out of Apple's handbook and releasing a new product once a year with a couple more features that you won't use. But I suppose that's better than locking out some of the features that your more expensive models have, Canon. So I bought the Hero 8 Black on my way to Vermont on a ski trip, and I wanted a camera that I could bring up the mountain and not have to worry about. Lugging a mirrorless on a gimbal up the mountain while you're trying to deal with a snowboard is not my idea of fun. So I stopped in at one of the big box stores on my way to Vermont, and this is what I landed on, the Hero 8 Black. I also bought this little pack that came with like a handle and a head cam thing and this little clip for attaching your GoPro to your baseball hat for some reason. But predominantly I just used the foam one because it was the most simple and easy to use. I knew there was going to be some compromises as far as not being able to change the lens out and not having the quality that a full-size mirrorless camera brings, but it was a price that I was willing to pay to not potentially drop my A7 III off a cliff. Or even worse, spend half my time on the mountain not snowboarding, messing around with switching lenses or getting my gimbal rebalanced or blah blah blah. It was just stress that I didn't want to deal with, so I went with a GoPro. When all was said and done, I paid $349 for the camera itself, and then I think another $50 for the attachment. One of the cool things that I noticed immediately is that you can buy spare batteries for it, so the battery is now removable. And another thing I noticed while I was in the store before I even got this out of the box is that they actually offer attachments for it now. So there's a little cage that goes around it and you can add a flip-up screen or a light or a shotgun mic. I think there was also a foregrip and bayonet attachment. I don't have a huge frame of reference as far as GoPros are concerned because I've only ever used the 7 briefly. So if it seems like I'm comparing the 8 to something, that's what I'm comparing it to, the 7. The first thing I noticed immediately about the GoPro Hero 8 Black that I really liked was how easy it is to set up video profiles for the type of video that you'd like to record. It comes stock with 4 video profiles which are named Standard, Activity, Cinematic, and Slow-Mo, but you can change or rename these however you'd like. All you need to do is touch the pencil icon next to the profile that you're trying to change, and you can change your resolution, your frames per second, what quote-unquote lens you're using, which is just more of like a zoom-in option, whether hypersmooth is on, if you want to use the low light settings, the zoom, or a clips option, which I haven't messed with, and I don't really know what it does, and I'm not going to look it up, so just deal with it, I'm sorry. It's odd to me that there's that zoom option because there are not multiple lenses on this, so that's kind of what lens does. So I don't really know what the zoom function is for. I guess it's just calling the same thing two different things. But anyway, starting from the beginning of your settings, your options are 4K, 2.7K, or 1080p. As far as frames per second are concerned, the highest it goes to is 4K 60, meaning that you're only allowed to go up to 60 frames per second when you're in 4K. If you're in 2.7K, you can go up to 120 frames per second. And if you're in 1080p, you can go all the way up to 240 frames per second. As far as your lens options are concerned, you have the super view, which is what I stayed in because it's the widest field of view and it's gaining me the most information out of the sensor. You also have a wide, which is called 16 to 34 millimeters. You have a linear, which is 19 to 39 millimeters, and you have a narrow, which is called 27 millimeters. One thing I noticed is when you get to the linear setting on the lenses, it loses the fisheye effect, so the edges of your image won't be as skewed as they will be in the wider settings. It also says that it crops in by 10% if you're using the hyper smooth, which I'm sure would seem a little less confusing the more I sit down and mess with this thing, but if you're not a photographer, be prepared to be a little bit overwhelmed by what settings coincide with what other settings, because it is a bit convoluted. And don't get me wrong, as a camera guy, I like complex menu systems. I like having the option to change whatever I want, but if you're not a photographer or you're not a big camera or tech guy, you might find this a little bit confusing. As for the low light, the zoom, and the clips options down the bottom there, I didn't touch any of them. The low light lowers your frame rate automatically when it's dark, and the other two are just whatever, I didn't touch them. But like I said, I really like this video profile system that they incorporated into this. It's cool being able to just set up as many profiles as you like for whatever situations that you normally shoot in. And I like that they're so easily accessible. Another thing that I want to give praise to is the hypersmooth technology that they have in these action cams now. Back in the day, you had to either put it on a gimbal or just have a really steady hand, but this thing feels like it has a built-in gimbal. I mean, the IBIS in this thing is just incredible. That's not to say that a steady hand and a gimbal wouldn't help if you're in a real high-impact environment, but I just wanted to give credit where credit's due because the in-body stabilization in this thing is really impressive. Another thing you might notice immediately is that this one has a front-facing screen. It doesn't show you the actual video feed, but it shows you some information that might be helpful, like how long you've been recording, how full your SD card is, and where your battery life is at. If you're at all familiar with action cams, these controls are pretty standard. The side button controls whether you're in video, time-lapse, or photo mode, as well as the recording button, which is on the top right, as is the standard. Also, obviously, being a GoPro, the body is super rugged, as is the battery door. I was not worried about this thing at all as far as water or dust is concerned. It's obviously waterproof and dustproof. I like that they made the battery door so sturdy feeling, like it's actually kind of hard to close this thing. It really inspires confidence as far as waterproofing is concerned. The power/mode button on the left side and the recording button are both clicky and they feel good. And I was also pretty impressed by how nice the microphone is. I mean, obviously it's not shotgun mic quality, but for a tiny little waterproof microphone on the front of a GoPro, the sound is actually pretty nice. That was fun. That was like the best shot I got all day.
That was great.
Another thing that they changed about the design that I actually kind of like is that the connection points are built into the bottom now. Instead of having to put it in the little plastic cage that attaches to something, it just has these little foldable connection points at the bottom that will attach to any GoPro branded accessories. So a definite A+ as far as body design and hardware is concerned. As far as software is concerned, I'm going to give it a B. I mean, it's a good interface, it's easy to use, blah blah blah, but it is kind of convoluted in some areas. But I do really like those video profiles, and the touchscreen is super responsive. Nothing ever gave me any crap as far as not being able to find something or the touchscreen not responding. The quality of the video is really impressive. I mean, it's not a mirrorless, but it's close enough. The older iterations of the GoPro just reminded me of like crappy cell phone footage. As we well know as consumers nowadays that 4K is not all created equal. 4K on a cell phone is obviously not going to be as nice as 4K on a full frame camera. But the 4K, the 2.7, even the regular HD on this camera is all usable. I was very pleasantly surprised when I got home and popped the SD card in. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I really enjoyed doing this review and the little trip to Vermont to go visit my mom and go snowboarding. As always, stay tuned for more reviews. I'm actually working on a review of the Peak Design Everyday Sling right now, and I'm super excited about that because these bags are just awesome. But anyway, thank you for joining me on another episode of Sam Has a Spending Problem, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!